Happy Monday, everybody. I'm getting over being sick, so bear with me if you hear some coughing, or if I sound nasally. I hope you guys are healthy and well on this Monday morning. So before I go into the Harlem Renaissance and today's art lesson, I do want to mention that if you do have any photos, to email me of the strawberries so I can give them and put them in the menu calendar for next year. So any photos you might have of your students' work, of any of the fruits or vegetables we're going to be doing, send them my way, and hopefully they'll make their way into the calendar. So, and saying that, we're going to get ready talking about the Harlem Renaissance, which is one of my favorite time periods in history, especially in American history, because it is a unique American Renaissance. So Renaissance means that in a specific time or place that certain people become inspired. So that means artwork, like painting or drawing. That means music. That means literature, like plays and books. That the African Americans started to find their identity. And they were able to do that because they weren't enslaved anymore. And they were able to express themselves, have money for themselves, and they started building their communities. And that's where jazz music originated, the dance form and the music. And I'm going to show you some jazz music in a little bit. And the artist we're going to focus on is Palmer Hayden. Palmer Hayden, I've seen his artwork before in a few museums, and I love it. I love how he captures the day, every day in Harlem. He studied in France, and he started with a lot of landscapes. So he did a lot of oceans and boats and sunsets, and then he came back to the United States in New York and Harlem, and he decided to draw his people. He started to draw what he saw in homes and what he saw in the streets. And they're very colorful and they're very exciting, and I really like his artwork. So we're going to kind of be inspired by his work today. And he has a famous painting of a young boy sleeping, and it's called The Dreamer. And he's dreaming about musical instruments. So that's what we're going to draw today. So I have a little video I'm going to pull up for you, and that is about Hayden. So let's listen to that. So that's just a short little video about him. I'm going to show you some of his artwork. So here's the one we're going to focus on today. It is called The Dreamer, and we are going to focus on the top half where there's these instruments coming out of his dreams. And like I said, jazz was created during this time, which was, it might sound old to us and not very, radical, but it was very radical and different and new back then. So for him to dream about that is kind of embodies the Harlem Renaissance. I also think he was kind of inspired by Van Gogh because of the bed frame and just how the artwork is kind of in a kind of a swirly, kind of dreamlike. Kind of makes me think of Van Gogh. So I was wondering, maybe he was inspired by that, because artists are inspired by each other. I want you to look at the instruments, how there's shadow, how there's shading, and we're going to get that same look with our oil pastels. Here is one of my favorite, well, all of them are my favorite. I enjoy all of his artwork. I really like this one, The Janitor, because African Americans didn't have a lot of opportunity. He could have been one of the world's greatest artists, but he was always going to be seen as a janitor. And that's just kind of how life was back then in the 1920s and 30s. But the Harlem Renaissance really made a lot of African American art popular and in the mainstream. So they're slowly becoming part of the mainstream American culture. And I love this because he started off doing landscapes, but then he started to move inside of the homes of his people, so you get to see what their kitchens and their stoves look like, what they're eating, what they're cooking, what they're doing, playing music, painting. I just find that really fascinating. I do have a few, so I post the Google Slides here in the chat, so I have them be able to express themselves in their music and art and in literature. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started on our expression. We're going to focus on the instruments that you got to see in that video. We get to see a lot of brass instruments like trumpets, and trumpets are made out of brass, and we're going to kind of try to capture that look with our oil pastels. We're also going to learn how to draw a guitar, and we're going to do a quick warm-up on the back. So this is what the blue paper looks like, and this is what the art project looks like on a piece of white paper. It doesn't really make a difference. I just thought it was interesting to have some contrast. So we're going to go ahead, get your pencil ready, and we're going to start with our warm-up. So we're just going to write our name like we normally do. Alright, and I need to flip that around. That is backwards. Every time. Okay. And I'm going to have us do a few different instruments. I'm going to show you the guitar and the trumpet for when we flip it over and do it for the final project. But I'm also going to show you how to draw a drum and a saxophone. So if you feel like the trumpet might be a little too difficult for you, or the guitar, I'm going to show you two other instruments that are a little bit easier. For our warm-up, we are going to do them smaller, okay? When we flip it around, those instruments, we're going to focus and make them larger. But since this is the warm-up, I'm just going to show you the mechanics, and we're going to start off with a drum. So get your finger in the air, and you're going to wave it like you just don't care, and you're going to find this corner, your left corner. You're going to draw an oval, and this oval is probably going to be about 3 fingers in length. And we are going to draw a drum. It is a snare drum. There's bass drums, snare drums, there's cymbals, there's all different types of parts of a drum set. But in our artwork we're focusing on, he has a snare drum in his dream. That boy who is dreaming about jazz music. Alright, after you have this oval, it's about 3 fingers, we're going to give it a nice little rim, a little halo. And we don't have to worry about our instruments being perfectly proportionate or anything like that, because it is a dream. So if your instrument looks a little wonky or a little wobbly, that's okay. It kind of adds to the dream aesthetic. You're going to come down and give it 2 little short sides. I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see. And this is crucial. This is important. We're not drawing a straight line all the way across. No, no, no. That's going to ruin the illusion. What we need is a curved line. So we're going to draw a curved line. Like that. This curve is matching this curve. If I drew a straight across, that drum's going to look a lot flatter, but since I added a curve, it makes it look more three-dimensional. And then you can add a pattern. Sometimes you can add like a pattern if you want, something like that. Alright, that is our drum. We're going to move down here. You should have some room here, hopefully, and we're going to draw a saxophone. We're going to draw a oval that's kind of on a diagonal. So think of an oval on a diagonal. You're going to draw an oval. This oval is about 3 fingers. It's on a diagonal. That's why I put a little line so I know that my circle is on a diagonal. I'm going to draw a smaller oval inside. A lot of these instruments are just ovals and lines. And saxophones, they're kind of shaped like an S. So I'm going to find this side and this side of my saxophone. And this first line is going to drop down and come up and create an S. Do you guys see that S shape? We're kind of making these instruments look a little cartoony because that is the style that we're kind of emulating. It's not super realistic. It's kind of stylized. And then you just try your best to do a shape like this on the bottom. Saxophones have buttons, so you're going to add various size circles to your saxophone. It kind of looks like Swiss cheese. And then you're going to add a little mouthpiece that kind of looks like that. Alright, so these are the two instruments I feel are a little bit easier. And now I'm going to show you how to do a guitar and a trumpet. Guitars, I don't want to scare you, they're pretty easy too. If you can draw the number 8, if you can draw a figure 8, then you can draw a guitar. So we're just going to start off with drawing 2 circles that are overlapping. And we all know how to draw overlapping circles. We've been doing it since the beginning of the year. I'm going to start down here, and this is not going to be an oval, it's going to be a circle. And it's probably about 3 fingers. About 3 fingers. And then we're going to do another circle about that same size right on top. Makes a figure 8. And this is for our guitar. Jazz music was kind of seen as improper, kind of like dangerous, just because it was new and different, and coming from a part of the city that a lot of people weren't familiar with, like Harlem. And so it's kind of interesting to listen to old music and realizing that it was radical and new for its time. I always find that fascinating. Okay, you're going to draw a smaller circle right here for your acoustic guitar. Kind of looks like a donut and a little line, because that's where your strings go. Electric guitars weren't a thing back in the 1920s. It wasn't until like the 30s, 40s when you get instruments that are having electric components. So this is an acoustic guitar. We're going to put a little line right here, and this is where our neck of our guitar is going to be. Now when we draw our instruments, they're going to be larger, because this is our warm-up. So the guitar neck might be cut off depending where you're placing it on your paper. So it's okay if when we get to our actual instrument that it comes off on the side. You're not going to see the entire instrument. You can't see the entire guitar, you can't see the entire trumpet, and that's okay. But in our warm-up we can. So then we're just going to do a little triangle, do a few little sound pegs for tuning. You can add some frets. I like to outline my guitar to kind of make it more of that figure 8 shape. And the last thing you're going to do is add strings. You don't have to add all 6 strings, just add like 2 or 3 strings, and that should be good. And remember, they don't have to be perfectly straight. Your instrument doesn't have to look perfectly like an instrument, because we are drawing dream instruments. They're in a dream, and if you've ever had a dream, you know things are a little different in a dream. They don't look super real. There's always something a little off about them. Alright, hopefully you have enough room here for a trumpet. I am going to move my paper to its side, because our trumpet is going to take up all of this space. I'm going to put a line here and a line here, so I know that this is how large my trumpet is going to be. Trumpets might look difficult to draw, but I'm telling you, they're not as hard as you think. It's just a series of ovals and lines, and you can do that. Alright, we're going to start with a pretty large oval. It's about 3 fingers. And then you're going to put a tiny little oval right here, because that is where the trumpet's mouthpiece is. So things like saxophones, things like trumpets, they have mouthpieces, and that's where you put your lips and press the air through. because they are wind instruments. This is a string instrument. Trumpets and saxophones are wind instruments, and then guitars, violins, those are string instruments. Even pianos are a string instrument. Alright, you got a big oval, you got a tiny oval, and now you're going to put a tinier medium oval inside. We're drawing a lot of donuts today, a lot of bagels, a lot of donuts. What's important is that we're going to start kind of towards the center. Not like with the saxophone where we started on the sides. We're kind of coming towards the middle, and you're going to create a triangle shape, but you're not going to draw the tip of the triangle. You're kind of like almost making a triangle. I haven't started off on the sides. I started towards the middle more. And then after you have that, you're going to draw straight lines all the way to your mouthpiece. And your line might have to taper. That means it might have to get closer and smaller. So let's see how that goes. Like that, and like that. This is a warm-up, so don't worry if your trumpet doesn't look like mine. It's your first time drawing a trumpet. At least probably for most of you. Trumpets have 3 buttons, so we have to add 3 buttons to the top. And this is going to be our top, and we're just adding 3 little 3 little squares. Those aren't triangles, they're squares. After you have those cute little squares, we're going to add little lines on top to emulate buttons. I think brass instruments are some of the most beautiful instruments in a band. Clarinets are made out of wood, so they're wood instruments. But anything that's gold is probably brass. Alright, and our last thing is we have to start here and we have to draw another oval. Okay? And this oval comes down, and this is called the spit valve. I know, gross, but that's where all the spit gets collected. And it's called the spit valve. So we have to do another shape like that inside. This part comes out so you can clean it. Alright. We got the mouthpiece, we got the keys, spit valve. We got all the parts of a trumpet. I love it. And that's all I have to show you for our warm-up, and now we're going to do it for real on the back side. I want you to pick 2 instruments, so you have a few to pick from. You can do a guitar and a trumpet like I am. You can do a saxophone and a drum. You could do a drum and a guitar. It's up to you. But we are going to draw them larger, and we're going to do a line towards the middle because you're going to have 2 instruments. Okay? So let's flip our paper over. And we're going to do some sketchy lines. A sketch line means it's light, okay? You're going to find the middle, and you're going to lightly sketch a line down the middle. So I have it in landscape. I don't have it in portrait. This is portrait. I have it in landscape. One side's going to be my trumpet, and one side's going to be my guitar. And my guitar is going to be on an angle. So it's going to be on a diagonal line. So I'm just going to draw a light diagonal line right there, starting from the left corner, going all the way up to the right corner. We're mapping it out to look something kind of like this one, where the guitar is here in this corner, and it's going to come off, and you're not going to see the entire guitar. So we have a line here and a line here. We're going to do a figure 8, okay? And we're going to start towards the bottom, and then one towards the top. These are about 3 fingers. And you can add your own design to the guitars. You can get a little creative. But we are going to go ahead and give it that acoustic sound hole right here. a little line for the strings. We aren't going to add the strings with pencil. We're going to do that towards the end when we have our oil pastels. We're going to make a line right above where those two circles intersect, where they touch. And then we're going to draw the long neck, okay, for the fingerboard. And that's going to come right off the page. And then you can outline your guitar like this. And there you go. Got your guitar. It's okay if you can't see your entire guitar. It's kind of like we're taking a snapshot with a camera. So some of this might be out of focus. Some of this might be off the edge of your paper. And that's okay. You don't have to make your instrument fit. We're not trying to force it to fit. It's okay if it spills off of the page. It makes your artwork look like there's more movement. Alright. I'm going to give you a few seconds. Outline that figure 8 nice for you. Don't forget that guitar neck. Alright, we're going to come here and we're going to do our trumpet. Our trumpet is also on a diagonal, so I'm just going to do a light diagonal line, just like that. And it's not going to be in the middle, it's going to be a little towards the top, and it's going to be a pretty large oval. It's going to be about 4 to 5 fingers, okay? So this is a larger oval. It's about 4 fingers, a little larger than 4 fingers. Then you're going to have a smaller oval inside. I'm going to pause for everyone to catch up. I did not draw my oval in the middle. I kind of moved up towards the top. It's pretty large. It's about 4 fingers. You guys are doing such a good job. Instruments are not easy to draw. So be nice to yourself. Alright. We are not going to start on the edges. We're going to start more towards the middle. Like right about here. And we're going to do that triangle thing where it's almost a triangle, but not quite. We're not doing the top. It's almost like we're looking at a witch hat upside down. But there's no tip to the hat. When we get to the coloring section, you are more than welcome to put on some jazz music. I might put on a little bit of music just so everyone can listen to it. If that becomes too distracting, just let me know. And we're going to let this line go all the way down off the page. We're going to come all the way down off the page. You can't see the entire trumpet, and that is okay. We're leaving it up to our imagination. You should hopefully have enough room down here for the spit vowel. I know that's a gross name, but that is what it's called. And you're going to do a little oval, and then another oval inside like that. Swing music is also one of my favorite genres. And that's also a big band sort of music. There's a song I have on my Google Slides called All About That Swing. I like that song. Maybe I'll play that for you in a little bit. Hopefully you can fit maybe 1 or maybe 2 or maybe all 3 of your keys. So I'm going to fit like 2. Maybe you can fit 3, maybe you can only fit 1. That's okay. We are pretty much done with our instruments. We don't really need our pencil too much anymore. What I am going to suggest is that you erase any sort of lines, like this line or the figure 8 inside of your guitar, and we're just going to lighten up those lines, okay? So I'm going to erase the line I put in the middle. I'm going to lighten up the lines inside of the guitar. Erase that line I have for the diagonal part of our instrument. Erasing any little dots I might have. We're just lightening up those lines. We are going to jump in with the oil pastels, so make sure that you have your oil pastels ready after you're done erasing and lightening up all those lines we created. And one of the iconic features of the piece we are getting inspired by, the Dreamer, is that there are these blue zigzag sort of oceany sort of feel in the background, just like you see here. So we are going to mimic that. We are going to create some of these blue sort of wiggly lines in the background. Notice that they are behind the instruments. Notice that it goes dark blue, light blue, dark blue, light blue, dark blue, so there is a pattern. So there's not going to be two of them touching. It's going to be kind of like a wave of color that is mimicking the background of the painting we're being inspired by. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Get your dark blue and a light blue out. We're going to start off with that dark blue. And we'll zoom out a little bit. And we have to make sure that we're doing these blue lines behind our instrument, okay? I'm going to go ahead and start with the dark blue. I'm going to start at one part of my drawing. I'm just going to do some zigzag lines or wiggly lines, but we are not going on top of the instrument. We're skipping over. Skipping over. Getting to an instrument, what are you going to do? Skip over it. And then you're also going to create that line to be a little thicker. So you're just going to come, skip over that instrument, come here, skip over that instrument. Okay, so we have one. We're going to add another one right about here. I'm just going to come up and over and down, creating another one like that. So I have 1, 2, maybe you can fit a third one, maybe we could do one more right there. And you're going to have to figure out your pattern, okay? So dark blue, light blue, dark blue, light blue, dark blue, light blue. So I'm putting X's where there should be the dark blue. So I know that this is going to be colored in dark blue. This one's my light blue. This one's colored in dark blue. This one's my light blue, colored in dark, and then my light blue. It's very important, as you notice here, this is going to be a dark blue stripe. We have to outline our instrument. So I'm going to outline my instrument in the dark blue because it is going to be touching my dark blue stripe. And this is a little easier to see once you get started coloring it in. Once you've decided which ones are going to be the dark blue, remember it's a pattern, dark, light, you're going to just go ahead and color in with that dark blue first. Don't be afraid to exaggerate your curves of your line, because this is a time to exaggerate. That's what our artist did in his artwork, like the one with the janitor, the artist janitor. He said before he repainted it, he had a very exaggerated facial expressions, very exaggerated hand movements. Things were exaggerated. So it's okay to get a little exaggerated with your colors and movements and lines. This whole period of the Harlem Renaissance is about expression, okay? All about self-expression, being proud of who you are, proud of where you came from, and all of that cool stuff, all that cool jazz. Very punny today. I'm going to go ahead and play one of those songs. If it becomes too distracting, just go ahead and send me a message in the chat. Maybe you guys are playing your own music. That's fine too. Anything that's jazz related. So I'm going to play Fitzgerald. I love Fitzgerald. And Duke Ellington. He's the piano player. So what Fitzgerald was doing right there is called scatting. And scatting is when she's trying to sound like a trumpet or a saxophone, like an instrument, her voice. She's mimicking a brass instrument. And scatting was also kind of created during the Harlem Renaissance, which is kind of a cool little fact to know. Alright. You you might be a little ahead or a little behind. It's okay. After you have your background, I am going to show you what colors you're going to do your trumpet. You're not going to do your trumpet just one solid color. You're going to need yellow. You're going to need a rusty yellow. You're going to need orange. And you're also going to need red. Because we're going to make this instrument look like sun is hitting it. So we're going to have some low lights, some highlights, kind of like with the cactuses where we layered colors on top of it. The shadow is going to be towards the bottom of our instrument. This is the bottom of the instrument. And you're just going to start off with yellow. So you're going to color in the entire trumpet yellow. If you're doing a saxophone, color in the entire saxophone yellow. It's okay if you get a little bit of blue mixed in there. We are blending, that's okay. Color in that entire trumpet yellow. Alright, I'm going to have you guys just watch what I'm going to do with the orange. So let's have all eyes on the screen in 3, eyes on the screen in 2, and 1. I promise you can go back to your artwork. I just want to show you what to do with these 3 colors. You have to create lowlights and highlights, okay? So with your rusty yellow, you're going to just outline your entire instrument with the rusty yellow, okay? And that's going to create some more depth. That's going to create more texture, and it's going to make your instrument look a little more realistic, okay? So this is the first step. You outline it with the rusty yellow. After you outline it with the rusty yellow, you get those keys. Make sure you're covering all the white of the page. You're going to get your orange, and you need to do your low lights with your orange. So you're going to color in the inside of that trumpet like that, because that is where the trumpet indents. You're going to add a few lines towards the bottom of your trumpet. You're going to add some orange towards the bottom of your trumpet here, and you're just creating some low lights like that. And then just for fun, you're going to add also a little bit of red where that orange is to kind of enhance that color like that. So just take a moment, look what I did. I added rusty yellow, I outlined the entire instrument. Then I colored in anywhere where there's shadow with the orange. And then I just kind of went over the orange with the red, kind of solidifying where those low lights are on our instrument. And you can even blend that red in a little bit more by going over it with your orange. So if you don't like how sharp the red looks, then you're just going to add a little bit of orange on top of it, and it kind of settles it in. And now it looks like there's light hitting the instrument, kind of like in the video we watched with Louis Armstrong, where the light is hitting the brass instruments. And that's kind of what we're capturing right here. Okay. For the guitar, I like to just color in the whole thing with the rusty yellow and then brown on top, and it kind of creates a wood pattern. So I created this wood pattern by just doing rusty yellow and then brown on top. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm just coloring in the guitar. Oh, look at that, I forgot to color in this part. Okay, there we go. I highly recommend picking up an instrument when you guys get to middle school, because I got to try saxophone, I got to try trumpet, and it's a really cool experience. I didn't stay with wind instruments because I have asthma, so I stayed with the string instruments like guitar and violin. But I wish I kept up with the wind instruments. They're a lot of fun. And then I'm just going to do the same thing with a dark brown, and this is going to kind of create the wood pattern we saw. It's important to know that the Harlem Renaissance was the first time in history where African Americans were able to have their own, like, disposable income. So they were working for their own money. And the one thing that most of them bought were instruments, which is really a cool thing because instruments are expensive. So before, if they had an instrument, it probably wasn't their own. Or it was really hard to obtain an instrument. So they would often have instruments like drums or something they could build, like a guitar or drums. But then once they were able to have their own income and they were free from slavery, then they could buy instruments like trumpets and saxophones, things they couldn't build by themselves. And so that's why I kind of picked the trumpet as the focal point, because it's almost like a status symbol that they could buy and own their own instruments, which is kind of interesting to think from our point of view because we're all free. So yeah. Alright, you're going to outline your instruments in black. And like I said, when you add the strings to your guitar, don't worry too much about there being 6 strings. Don't try to be accurate. We're kind of doing a cartoon sort of expression. So I'm just going to draw like 2 or 3 strings. Just like that. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm off on the side over there. There we go. Also, I am going to outline my trumpet in black, but I'm not going to outline the whole thing. I'm going to kind of suggest. I'm going to suggest lines. So I'm not outlining the entire thing. I'm kind of just giving lines where I feel need lines. So you notice I only added a line here and here. I didn't put a line here. I didn't finish the circle here. I'm just suggesting shadow and stuff like that. I'm going to give everyone some time to catch up. The last thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to do some musical notes. Because we're going to add some fun notes like this on our page. And that is the next step I'm going to show you. I'll give you guys some time to finish coloring. And then I'm going to show you how to do some notes. Reading music makes you better at mathematics. Learning how to read music makes you better readers. I recommend everyone learn how to read music. It's a whole different language. I love seeing how focused everybody is. I love that. Alright, I'm going to ask for all the eyes on the screen in 3. Your eyes should be on the screen in 2. And in 1, you're looking at the screen. Where are you looking? The screen. Alright, I'm going to show you how to do a music note. You're going to pick somewhere on your page. I'm going to zoom in right here. I like to do my notes that are kind of like on the cusp of the light blue and the dark blue. So I'm just going to do a nice large circle. This circle is probably as big as my finger. See that? You have to pick the right side of your note and you have to give it a staff. Okay, that is called a staff. And then you give it a flag. So I'm going to show you that one more time. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to start right inside of my trumpet. I'm going to do a nice large circle. It's about as large as my finger. You have to start on the right side. The staff goes on what side? The right side. You do a staff and then a flag. Okay? That is how you do a musical note. Now, if you want to do something that's a little more difficult, you can put 2 notes in a row. I'm going to zoom in right here. Where should you be looking? The screen. You're going to give it the flag staffs, the staffs, and then you're going to connect the staffs instead of just doing the little flag. So go ahead, add a few notes. Remember the rule of thirds. Everything looks better in 3s. So instead of having one note all by itself, make it have 2 friends. Okay? 3s look better than 1s and 2s. So I'll put a note here, and then I'll put one over here, so my notes are in 3s, because 3s look better. The human eye likes things in thirds. I definitely recommend getting a fun, colorful piece of paper, or even black construction paper, and putting your artwork on a piece of paper and mounting it. It just makes it look more put together and finished. And having those colors make the blue pop. For example, here's one on some green paper. Here's another on some pink paper. And it just really makes your instruments pop and your artwork look nice and complete when you mat it. This is called matting your artwork. If you ever enter your artwork in an art show, they often ask you to mat it on some matting paper. I have a copious amount of pink paper, so I'm going to use pink. I can't say his first name. Palmer Hating. Look at his artwork. You're going to see a lot of people enjoying dancing, enjoying music. They're enjoying the Harlem Renaissance, and that's all what it's about, is celebrating black culture, which is very fitting for February because it's Black History Month. And so take a look at his artwork. You're going to see the everyday life of people who lived in the 1920s and 30s, what their homes looked like, what the streets looked like, what the clothes, what the cars. He really captured that time period very well.